Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's a great pleasure just to be with you today and also to introduce our amazing Dr. Srividhya from UAA. We're going together to have a session about celebrating new diversity to promote social justice. Dr. Srividhya, if you please, digital floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Maha. Thank you so much. And it has been always a pleasure in representing IIU on a virtual platform. As we all know, International Internship University is the leading virtual education system and a global brand confederation, which is most valuable and trusted worldwide, as well reputed in delivering innovative programs. And globally, it is a trusted name for the quality training programs and is committed to providing better and virtual education to all the young learners across the globe. In a short span of time, as we all will agree, that IIU has spread its wings in all the 195 countries and 6 continents under the strong leadership of our visionary founder, Mr. Piyush Pandit sir, a committed and inspiring social activist, and a passionate educationist from the last 2 decades, providing education to students from various and social and cultural backgrounds across the globe. So, in gratitude, with the due immense gratitude to the team of IAU, Dr. Virginia, Ms. Maha, Ms. Armina, and Dr. Nada, and Dr. Smigda, and everyone as such, it's always a pleasure to join IAU on this virtual platform. Thank you so much, Ms. Maha. So, as Maha was mentioning, that today's concept is on neurodiversity, and we are calling it as net neuro talks because these days, when we talk about sustainability, net zero has become the talk of the world. And so, why not we think about net neuro talks? That's what we are united on this platform, on this virtual dais, where we are going to celebrate neurodiversity and which we feel that it's a way of promoting social justice. As we all know that what is neurodiversity? It's basically a concept that recognizes and respects the wide range of neurological differences that exist among people. And it challenges the traditional view that certain neurological conditions that people suffer in terms of learning disorder. And when we say learning disorder, the main things, anyone who knows the topic, who has an awareness to it, who has a knowledge of it, irrespective of that particular fact, they're able to mention, is it autism, is it ADHD, is it dyslexia, and any other inherent pathological or instead which has comes as a natural variations of the human brain. So, on that note, we are meeting here to talk more about neurodiversity, which I feel that we should go ahead with the topic and allow me to share my screen. I have got a very beautiful video.
Yes, it's fine now.
We can see how the molecular structure of even one glass of water is able to convey to us so much of meaning about people's emotion. How do people emote and how do people react to certain situations and how do those thoughts and emotions have an impact on a glass of water, on one glass of water. Please remember that our body is full composition of water. 70% of human body is made of water. The water molecules, when they were exposed to water, when they were exposed to emotions, the molecular structure of the water changed according to different emotions which were said. People were saying some words to this cup of water, to this glass of water, and as such, when it was heard and when it was perceived, when it was reflected, and the water in its memory, such that these patterns were formed. Likewise, even it inflicts on our body of water.
Doctor, sorry for the interruption, but we can see your screen, but not your PowerPoint. Your desktop, actually.
So when it is with love and gratitude, see the beautiful pattern of water, the water is created, the pattern which is created. When it is an evil thought, you can see the look at the patterns that have been created.
We can see only your desktop, they downloaded.
Yes. So when it is eternal bliss, such a beautiful pattern. When it is peace, again a beautiful pattern is created. Peace pattern, when it is symphony, again a beautiful pattern is created. So we can try it out. We can try it out with a glass of water, even at our own level. This is for heavy metal music, jazz music that when we hear the jazz music. So this kind of pattern is created. So this is a very beautiful video, which I thought that definitely people know about it, and we all know about it, and we all know that our emotions really inflict on people's mind and their reactions, and it really has its consequences. So this particular study of neurodiversity, it refers to the diversity of the human brains and minds. The infinite variation that we have seen with a glass of water is variation in the neurocognitive functioning within our species. So what is this whole perspective is all about? It promotes the idea that the neurological differences between people should be recognized and respected as a social category on par with gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation even, and disability status. There comes the study of neurodiversity becomes an indispensable one when we handle with people's emotion. So it is concluded that this neurodiversity movement includes, but definitely not limited to, the particular disorders that we were talking in the beginning of the session about autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, everything, even Tourette syndrome, anything that you can take which is related to that neurological developmental conditions. It's definitely not only to that pertaining to that, even to the variations which are taken into account of the social model and the medical models as such. So this neurodiversity paradigm advocates a social model of disability rather than a medical model. In the sense, like, rather than going into a medical program of having medicines and that and this, etc. How can we become socially clubbable? How can we develop a model? How can we develop a pattern for ourselves? How can we develop a program for ourselves such that we can program our own thoughts, our own brain, our own inflictions, and such that we will be able to, the change will start within us and we'll be able to take it forward. So this social model that we are talking about today focuses on the societal barriers and the attitudes that will disable individuals rather than viewing the neurological conditions and taking into the psychological study and etc. So that note, what should we basically know about in the first place is the strength and challenges being faced. So the neurodiversity, study of neurodiversity, emphasis that the strengths and the abilities that come up with the different neurological conditions such as creativity, problem solving skill, with unique perspectives while acknowledging the challenges individuals in that particular person. So, as we know, people are of different nature. People have different capacities. People look at problems in different perspective, and we need to have empathy within us such that we are able to make them inclusive, accept what they are willing to say, and we will be able to take it forward. As we have a major responsibility of being the educationist in this field, as an educator, we have a major responsibility handling this with the neurodiversity. So when you become an advocate of neurodiversity, we will be stressing on the creating inclusive environments that will provide the necessary accommodations and support for a neurodivergent individuals so as to thrive and to make our education scenario, education landscape, or even the work scenario or the work landscape being a nice place full of harmony and symphony to work in. So this is going to be the growing emphasis on neurodiversity in the workplace and all the education settings, encouraging not only the students, not only all the stakeholders who are involved in it, not only the students, not only the parents, not only the teachers, working employees and the employers. Everybody has to come in follow into this such that we learn to appreciate the neurodivergent talents and implement practices that will support the diverse ways of thinking and learning. So overall, this neurodiversity is a movement that seeks to shift the social attitudes and promote acceptance and create inclusive environments that will enable all individuals, regardless of their neurological makeup, to reach their high potential. On that note, we will go into the session as such.
According to Dr. Shang, certain words refer to cosmic intelligence. Cosmic intelligence vibration refers to the sound of Om, as it represents absolute reality in sound vibrations. It is the vibration of the ancient sound associated with the creation of the universe. It is believed that before creation, vibrating energy existed. That sound became the vibration of creation. So the universe was created out of the cosmic intelligent vibration, the ever-present sound of Om. This vibration still exists around and within everyone. Today, people connect with cosmic intelligent vibration through yogic practices such as meditation and chanting Om. By repeatedly reciting the mantra Om, people feel the sound and vibrations that are filled with the calmness and peace of cosmic energy. Most religions recognize the word Amen, though they call it by different names. The Bible calls it Amen, but its meaning in Hebrew is being sure. Muslims use the sacred word Amin, which means faithful. In Hinduism, it is known as Om, but it's more accurate to call it Om instead of Om, because it is made up of three sounds, A, O, and The effects of chanting Om go beyond the philosophical realm. It is well recognized that sound is a powerful tool for healing and can have profound effects. The ancient civilization knew and practiced various methods that are now becoming accepted by the scientific community. The Aum sound encompasses the masculine, feminine, and neutral principles. It also addresses speech, mind, and breath. The physical result of this is that these sound waves will affect more significant surface areas. At a physical level, the Aum syllable addresses the whole of the human sound instrument. We open the mouth, Ah, move the lips closer to each other, Oo, and then close the mouth, This activates the larynx fully. Ah resonates in the stomach and chest, Oo in the throat and chest, and in the nasal cavity, skull, and brain. By chanting Aum, we move the energy from the abdomen to the brain. These sounds that create vibrations in our brain help us to calm our minds and clear our thoughts. A sound wave is introduced into a medium by a vibrating object. The vibrating object is the source of the disturbance that moves through the medium. The vibrating object that creates the disruption could be a person's vocal cords. The particles of the medium through which the sound moves vibrate in a back and forth motion at a given frequency. Modern technology, such as sound spectrum analysis and brain imaging technology, has made it possible to analyze the structure and quality of sound waves produced by chanting, and the physiological responses induced by the repetition of the Aum sound. Research studies were carried out on volunteers who had never chanted before. The recordings and the sound waves were analyzed before and after some weeks of chanting Aum regularly. The sound waves of those who had never done any chanting showed irregular patterns, indicative of unsteadiness of breath and more restless minds. The sound waves recorded after a period of regular chanting were smooth, evenly paced, and harmonic, a clear indication of more frequent breathing. An increased connection between the breath and mind resulted in an improved sense of calmness. One of these is the chanting of mantras. Mantras are syllables that exert an influence and effect through sound vibrations that resonate on specific body parts. Different syllables vibrate at different sound frequencies so that they will resonate with specific organs and parts of the body. The human hearing range is 20 Hz to 20 kHz. Aum vibrates at 432 Hz, which is relatively low within our hearing range. This means that the sound wave is longer and its vibration frequency is slower than a high-pitched sound. Our sound pitch produces energy and converts it into electricity. The sound that creates vibrations passes through the eardrum to the cochlea, through ossicles producing surface waves to impact hair cells. Sound waves are produced when the air atoms around the sound waves begin to vibrate. As more air particles vibrate due to this development, a chain reaction occurs. This creates movement, which transmits sound waves to the ear, which hears the waves as sound. Sound energy is created by vibrations flowing through something. Sound is transmitted as energy waves by solids, liquids, and gases. The molecules of gas then change into water and matter. Sound energy is produced when a force, such as sound or pressure, causes an item or substance to vibrate. That energy travels in waves through the material. Today, physicists know that matter is made of energy and vibration because their experiments and research showed that matter is not solid. The more physicists look deeper into the matter, the more its solidity dissolves into energy and vibration. Even ancient scientists knew that matter was manifested through cosmic sounds or words. Our sound behavior has a deep relationship with the geometric patterns, which are even related to the time cycles of the Earth, like the seasons throughout the year, and other longer ones corresponding to centuries and thousands of years. Civilizations like the Egyptians, Sumerians, and Mayans left traces back from time immemorial about their discoveries. Indeed, it is all related to mathematics, astronomy, and sciences that allow us to find applications in the physical world with many purposes. We have created diverse objects from the science of sound, from musical instruments to electronic calendars, wave oscillators to electric generators, and more. So these words are the cosmic vibrations that animate and form all matter, have massive power on our bodies, and remain with us so long as we are alive. The human body is made through a process that involves DNA. The vibratory sound of the word travels through the genetic letters of the DNA to produce flesh. This process separates the vibratory sound of the word into different vibrations. It's similar to how we assign a sound to each letter of the alphabet, and then use the alphabet to speak words with different sounds and vibrations. The words that describe our emotions, feelings, and moods are intelligent energy. These words help us to communicate with each other and carry the power to contain intelligent energy inside a geometric shape and prevent it from escaping. Masaru Emoto was a Japanese author, researcher, photographer, and entrepreneur who discovered that human consciousness could affect the molecular structure of water. His research can change the planet and our lives. Dr. Emoto believed that human consciousness affects the molecular structure of water. He wanted to try to influence the molecular structure of water with positive thoughts and words, and essentially bless polluted water with prayer and positive visualization. As a researcher, he understood that our planet, complex organic systems of life, and sustenance that surround us include the invisible electromagnetic, atomic, subatomic levels that we call existence. Far out, science tells us that existence is a complex web of mind-boggling sophistication, becoming increasingly complex and far off. Emoto had Buddhist monks bless water that was polluted. He had participants' channels, and their thoughts, feelings, and emotions onto the water was studied. He would freeze it and examine it under a high-powered microscope. His photography enabled him to find and finally prove his ideas that water is a blueprint of our reality on Earth. How we feel, think, and act is invisible to the naked eye and impacts the world around us. Since water is just hydrogenated oxygen, consider what our thoughts, emotions, and consciousness may do to the air surrounding us, because air is just water without the added hydrogen. Emoto also exposed water in classes, 2 different words, pictures, and even music. He then froze them and examined them using high-powered microscopic photography. Generally, water exposed to positivity created visually pleasing crystals, while negative water words, vibes, emotions, thoughts, consciousness, and music created ugly frozen crystals. He also found that water collected from different areas has its unique crystal formation when examined. The human body contains a lot of water, while the planet contains air filled with humidity. So it's been scientifically proven that our thoughts, feelings, emotions, words, and consciousness affect all of us at a molecular level. So, words can change our life. If a friend compliments you at the end of a hard day, it helps you feel contented and calm. A hateful comment can cause your brain to predict threats and flood your bloodstream with hormones, squandering precious bodily resources. For instance, you're driving your car, and suddenly there's an issue. Most people decide to control the situation and listen to the words in their minds that assure them they can fix the problem. Why do the words you encounter have such wide-ranging effects on you? Because many of the brain regions that process language also control the insides of your body, including major organs and systems. These brain regions guide your heart rate up and down and adjust the glucose entering your bloodstream to fuel your cells.
So how to make an education scenario, education environment based on this neurodiversity application, how to make it more progressive, that's what we are going to see in today's system. And what is this neurodiversity? How does it apply to the learning environment? How does it bring changes in the learning environment of a person, and then to the environment, and then to the community, such that we'll be able to take it as an inclusion movement, such that bring an equity in the process of learning, and which will stimulate and reform the whole education system. So that's why we call it as a para-education in the regular classroom, the pros and cons, and how to go about it. So there we are. So this we have briefed at length, so I'm not going to go in detail with that. So moving ahead. So what is this neurodiversity? These are the different, normally when we talk about neurodiversity, people think about these are the problems that normally tend to have with the neurodiversity applications, which are as dyscalculia, which you can say, dyslexia, as you can say, ADHD, you can say, and and mental, anything which is related to the mental ill health that you can say, all these things which comes into the neurodiversity factor. Now, when you analyze, when you are able to systematically, categorically analyze this problem, how you will be taking it forward. So that's what we need to have a look at it. So in a classroom situation, it's a paradigm shift in our thinking process. When you're going to adopt neurodiversity, it is a paradigm shift basically in our thinking process, in a process of adoption that will help look at the brain's diversity, biodiversity, and the cultural diversity. As I told you, it's basically about creating an inclusive environment. When we talk about inclusive environment, it's not only when you talk about one particular student, it is one student's brain diversity. When you talk about a system of a classroom, then it is biodiversity. When you take it to the community, then we talk about the cultural diversity. So it is a paradigm shift of thinking process of the teacher, of building a bond between the student and the teacher, and the student, teacher, child with the parent, such that we are able to take it to the environment, the education process and the environment, and also taking it to the community, such that we learn to accept people with all the problems that they have, that we have seen in the first place. So coined in 1990 by a journalist and the autism advocate, this phenomenon was used to reflect the difficulties of the people that face and have positive dimensions of the life, how to move forward. So this neurodiversity refers to, as I told you, it's about neurotalks. It's all neurological, what all problems that the brain has, and how to, as a teacher, as an educator, how we can have changes in our behavior, in our adopted pedagogies of teaching, or other adoptive remedial measures that will help the teaching process. So that's what we're going to see. So this neurodiversity, this refers to many different types of neurological differences in people, as the problems which have been mentioned, but people quite literally think differently. And the idea and the focus on the diversity rather than the disability. So we are not focusing on the disability of the person with all these problems, but we will think about the diversity of the process which is imbibed in it. So guided by the positive instruction, practicing differentiated instruction for the neurodiverse brain with the components of the positive instruction, strengthening the awareness, being positive role models, with the technological assistance of universal design and learning, strength-based learning strategies with the human resources and all the people involved, with positive career aspirations, with environmental modifications, will be able to move forward in this process for the phenomenon of the neurodiversity. So when it comes to the classroom situation, a strength-based classroom, a place where the students of all different potentialities and strengths and weaknesses with the labels come together and as equals to form a new type of learning environment. So once where no such thing as a normal student, where each and every learner is treated with respect and treated as most wonderful. So the modifications in the school environment that allows us the seamless inclusion of the neurodiverse students in the regular classroom is the basic criteria that we need to look into. So timely information which is being shared about the strength and weakness of the students and the remedials which are to be suggested and the interventions that are to be adopted, all these become the strategies and the assessment for each category of the standard expectations which are involved in it. So what will happen? It will become strength-based normal learning pedagogy will turn into strength-based learning strategies. So when it's so, provide a quiet area of some of the examples which I would like to mention here is provide a quiet area of clearly defined space for the belongings, adopt multisensory learning to teach the skills, variety of ways to express themselves. So whatever they've understood, but they are not very comfortable with, they should be able to express freely with the teacher or the educator, whoever it is, such that we have a very clear understanding of the student who is involved in it and model appropriate behavior through role models, etc., as we have seen, and also how to react to the situations with games and activities. Have more kind of practice sessions and social interaction sessions with games and activities, such that a lot of enhancement is being given for skill development, such that rich network of human resources, both inside out of the school, that the educators can draw upon and support the social. This is very key thing for all the new diverse students. Why? Because developing a bond between the student and the teacher, and the family is a very key thing for all these neurodiverse students who are involved in this process. That's that we will have a very clear understanding of exactly what is required for each student, and it is all tailor-made. We equip the sessions with AI and AR for the students to explore, and computer programs and applications allow the students with the special needs to overcome with obstacles and achieve success. So with all these innovation learning strategies, definitely that are tailored to each student's unique strengths, etc., that we are going to see further in our session. So moving ahead with the strength-based, then what is need to be taught as a student, taught to a student on a personal level is that building up resilience or building up the different 7 C's of resilience is a key thing that we need to look into. So when it's such a case, like first thing is a character. We have to understand the student from the student's point of view, and after understanding, what we need to demonstrate is a caring attitude, such that the students will be able to accept us as a teacher and they will open up. It's end of the day, the student opening up to the particular teacher with all his or her problem is a key thing that has to be demonstrated, such that it will open up a pathway for learning. So when the student is comfortable with the teacher, definitely the learning, it will open up the gate for learning. So when it happens, exactly, now we need to adopt a system or a network of how to develop the skills of the student, knowing the strengths and shortcomings of this particular student, work on the skills such that we'll be able to encourage the development of the whole self of the student. So this is how we develop the whole character of the student. So, for example, as the quote says that, so a thought, leap in action. So a thought is being instilled there, leap in action, put it in action. So when you put it in action, then it becomes habit. So a thought, leap in action. So in action, leap a habit. So when it becomes a habit, eventually it will turn into the character of the person. It will start inflicting the character of the person. When you know that your thought has become a process and it has inflicted the character of the person, it has started bringing changes in the character of the person, it will ultimately reach the destiny. So as you sow, we reap. So this is the basic thing that we need to develop a particular character set up for the student such that they are open up for contribution. So second is that how well you can contribute. That communication, the basic level of communication in a more empathetic, caring ways, and such that on a personal note, on one-to-one note, it's just not for keeping records in the school. It's not for just maintaining reports or interim reports or the summative assessment, nothing of that sort. On a one-to-one basis, understanding the student, knowing well the student, and working on the skills of the student, how to take it forward. So that's what is the basic communication, and we can modify the teaching processes that are being involved in it, and we'll be able to work on the strength of the student such that the whole pathway of learning becomes a stress-free, and the student is more liberated to the teacher such that they are able to open up, such that with modeling empathy, generosity, kindness, and we create more and more opportunities for the student to contribute and to have a proper learning setup, learning pathway. So during this, again, the third C is the coping up. That's the key thing that we need to look into. When you talk about coping up, exactly what all problems the child is facing, the student is facing, this has to be analyzed very clearly. So far, we are talking about student-teacher learning aspect, but it doesn't stop there. Even when it comes to the work environment, we need to look into the employee the same way, exactly. What is the employee suffering from? What are the personal problems they have? How can we help the employee to just cope up with the present situation? So how can we have interventions? How can we just make them feel comfortable? How can we just understand the problems that they are facing if they don't have the potentiality of the particular task that they are doing? How can we just help them out? So this is what is the process of coping up comes in. So modeling positive coping measures such that will help in the process, and guiding them to the coping measures, not only just instructing the remedials or the interventions that are to be suggested for maintaining the standards, but literally helping them with all the interventions and guiding them through and through, hand in hand, and realizing and understanding the pragmatic measures which are to be adopted to make it more effective. So when you are able to do this coping up process very clearly, they take control of the situation, because this is a very key thing. This is a more sensitive area where there is a shift which is going to take place from what I know, what I was before with all the learning disorders, with the learning difficulties, and how I'm going to manage the situation. When it's such a case, taking the control of the particular situation is a key thing that we need to work in. So taking control of the situation such that the child doesn't feel offended or being left out. So this is what is the thing. And slowly, gradually, this child will definitely develop the competence that is required for completing the task or for bringing the change. And also it will help in boosting up the confidence of the person such that they will be able to develop good connection. So this is the key thing, that the 7 C's of resilience that helps in the whole process of neurodiversity.
So words are tools for regulating human bodies. Other person's words directly affect your brain activity and your bodily systems, and your words have the same effect on other people. Whether you intend that effect is irrelevant. It's how we're wired. Throughout our life, we develop a habit of self-conversation that creates our beliefs. Some beliefs we acquire are positive, and some are negative. The negative thoughts prevent us from reaching our goals, like, I'm so terrible at interviews. I'm probably not even as qualified as the other candidates. There's no way they'll hire me. I should just leave. But the best part here is that we can always change these negative beliefs into positive beliefs, like, I have all the necessary skills and experience, and I'm the perfect candidate for this job. Affirmations are positive statements that send positive messages to our brains and reprogram our subconscious mind. If you ever had someone tell you you couldn't do something or made you feel like you weren't enough, you can be sure that those messages are hidden in your subconscious, ready to derail you anytime. Positive comments like, you're doing great, you're great at managing money, coming up with great ideas, or completing a task will help you feel satisfied and work harder. You must always try to take criticism positively and remind yourself that no matter how challenging this task is, I can do it. Using I am affirmations encourages you to bring positive changes to your life. I am strong, I am worthy, I can do it, I have it in me, I can make it happen are powerful messages that can help you transform the way you want and change your life. I am affirmations help us avoid negative thoughts.
So this is how building resilience will help in the neurodiversity classroom. So when we have structured our classroom and our pedagogy and our adoptive measures on that note, in this we have to understand that in this we are together and it will benefit both. Starting from the preamble of the classroom situation that had started when the year that it started with the year 1960s. All the educators have been aware of that the students have very high expectations of the students that will end up with the high achievement levels. But unfortunately, this is not true. The neurodiversity emphasizes that looking at the students with the special needs, primarily in terms of their gifts and abilities, and using these strengths to help them to deal with the challenges has a positive view, and it has paid off dividends as the students rise up to the expectations of teachers, as we have seen in the processes that we have mentioned in the resilience part of it. So when it's so, the growth paradigm, which we call it as a growth paradigm, to replace the deficit paradigm. We are not going to look at the deficits, or we are not going to look at the disorders of the students, but we are now going to look at the growth paradigm which is involved in this process. So as pioneers of the special education in the first half of the 20th century, that we used to have terms of neurodiverse individuals as moron, feeble-minded, etc., brain damage and educational handicap. But in the 21st century, we came up with the whole scenario of being inclusive, getting into inclusive education, that we have started discovering people with the neurodiversities as people of determination, which has gifts that will go well with the cutting edge careers in the information technology, entrepreneurship and science, etc. So it's a time that the special educators use this knowledge to help the students affirm positive futures for their whole process of learning. So neurodiversity supports the inclusive movement. That's what we are able to see now. Students with special needs who are included in the regular classroom development are more positive with the views of themselves, form friendships, and neurotypical kids are always being better able to keep up with the curriculum and learn important academic skills. So what is more important for the neurodiversity students is that students who have those learning disorders, you should start working on the skills which they have basically. Say for example, in a very simple classroom situation, if you want them to depict a night sky or talking about the plant, or a very simple primary classroom which you're talking about the plant, they can always draw a plant instead of explaining the parts of the plant in terms of definitions and all those written things. They can always draw a plant and show it to you. So this is what is working on the skills of the student. That we all know that. We being educators, we all know about the multiple intelligence skills which are being there in the students. So we need to adopt certain strategies to work on the skills of the students that will help the inclusion part of it by convincing the regular classroom teacher added to the neurodiverse students that will make the classroom better. And students who have neurodiversity will have the positive qualities, attributes, gifts to make the positive contribution to the classrooms. So coming to the neurodiversity that aligns with the school other programs and policies on diversity is the key. That accepting these students modifying lesson plans, modifying the tasks which are being included. Each and every task which is being administered in the classroom has to be modified, has to be made tailor-made for these students to adopt it. Basically, you know about it exactly. How do we go about it? So, in a heterogeneous mix of the classroom, so virtually all the schools have to promote this policy of accepting the students with the both cultural diversity and academic diversity, with the ethnic groups and different races, gender roles, etc., etc. When it comes to the biodiversity, through the classes, with the classes of the units of biological differences which are being there, that also to be accepted, and also about the school districts which have the departments of diversity to promote on these policies, which are the key thing to have a very homogeneous classroom with the optimum that has to be achieved as a rational. So the neurodiversity can be viewed as another positive contribution to the overarching commitment to the diversity that should be integrated in both the classroom lessons and on the diversity and the education policies which are being dedicated to promoting equity in the learning processes. So, how to stimulate this neurodiversity? Reform the school scenario. So, neurodiverse students are more like a canaries in a coal mine. So the coal miners brought canaries down to the mines with them. If an air blockage developed, the canaries would fall off their perches, the lack of oxygen. This would warn the miners to get out. So in that case, students with the special needs, through the difficulties with the academic behaviors and attention, help to reform and refine the education system with the focus on inclusion, accepting the cultural biodiversity, accepting the personal diversification or the determination factor which is being involved in it, that will help us to bring an inclusive environment that will ensure the learner's benefit. This means more of hands-off learning, experiential learning, project-based learning, tailor-made tasks with all differentiated tasks and learning processes, and also the assessment part of it, with the exploratory learning, art-based learning, brain-based learning, or the main photo of the universal design of these learning that is being involved with the learners, the neurodiversities that will benefit from all the learners with all the communities. So, moving ahead, the neurodiversity can change the world. We typically think of those individuals who have had the greatest impact on the world as super individuals, who has got the extraordinary power and expertise. If you would like to, if you really want me to make a mention, we know about Albert Einstein. And what happened to him, the whole world knows. So each and every classroom has got Albert Einstein in the classroom. And we need to, as the educators, it's our duty to look into them as what is required individually in their lives and what is required for them to come up with their strength and weaknesses. And strength, basically work on the strength, and with all the interventions we'll be able to provide, with the support they will be able to come. So however, when you begin looking at the individuals, you see something entirely different. They will be totally different. These students, these individuals have both strength and significant challenges. Some examples that if you really want me to mention, that's Winston Churchill as a contact disorder and speech impairment. Henry Ford had learning disabilities. Thomas Edison had clear signs of ADHD. Agatha Christie was a dyslexia. Helen Keller had a significant sensory impediment. So the list goes on. So this should remind us that kids with special needs in our classroom may be the ones who make the crucial discoveries, and they're going to be the key people of the world in the forthcoming decades. So as the line goes, the imitation games, the story of the computer pioneer Alan Turing. Sometimes it's the people, no one can imagine anything of who does the thing, and no one can imagine how this can turn up to. So that's what is the whole thing of neurodiversity is all about. And moving ahead, there are certain things which we can, when we take neurodiversity as a affirming practice, how we can go about it. So when we talk about neurodiversity's affirming practice, it's a framework from working from within with supporting the neurodivergent individuals. It's a whole framework grounded with the neurodiversity parallel. So like any good framework, it's a set of principles that are being involved in it. as per the usual fascination and the passion for anything that we do with the neurodiversity paradigm, we have put together with a list of principles that can be adopted. So when we talk about neurodiversity affirming practice, the core principle is that first thing is intersectionality. So we need to accept people of different section, respecting autonomy. People should learn respect. That's respect. When you talk about respect, it starts from self. Then when it comes to self, we carry it to the next person, our next person, from the next person to the community, or to the, if you talk about a classroom, it's a classroom. If you talk about a corporate setup, it's a corporate setup. If you talk about a family, it's a family. And then from the family, it takes up to the community. So first it starts with self, accepting them and respecting them, validating the differences, presuming that competence part of it, presuming, okay, this person is capable of doing it, and reframing the expectations. That means what we might have thought of something from that particular person. The person is not delivering to the good, so we just modify it. We go back and modifying it, promoting self-advocacy, rejecting normativity. That means it's like it is this and it is one size fits all. It doesn't work with the neurodiversity setup at all. So prioritizing the lived experiences means every single learning experience, every single life experience is treated as a learning experience, such that we are able to work on the strength and we are able to work on it more, nurturing positive self-identity and adapting systems and environment such that we modify the systems and environment and honoring all forms of communication. So this is how the whole scenario it goes up. So when we talk about intersectionality is the first principle for any reason. It is most important that the principle, because all our work and all our approaches, all our therapies, we need to recognize intersectionality. When we don't see all of one entity, we don't see the whole person. So when we don't see the whole person, we end up reinforcing patterns. So discrimination, unfair expectations, standards and norms. So when we don't see the whole person, we are missing the whole context that we need to understand as a whole same person. So we cannot challenge normativity without challenging the normativity of the heteronormativity, and we cannot dismantle ableism and cynicism without dismantling all forms of oppression. So leaving aside all the complexities, the basic thing is to accept the different sections of people as they are. Be it caste, creed, status, etc., 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 doesn't matter. Accept them. So when you accept them, then you start respecting. This respecting autonomy is about honoring every individual's the right to control their own body as well as make their own decisions. Any physical disorder, any physical disability which is being there, include them, accept them, modify your environment so as to suit their needs, so that we'll be able to extend with the word right to say no and right to determine of what is helpful for them as well as what is distressing them. So it is about recognizing there are multiple courses of action when it comes to supporting an individual to get into to determine what is helpful, whether it is any kind of accommodation that you can give them, even medication, anything that you can give them that will really help them to come out of their problems and such that they will be able to experience life as it is. So we respect autonomy when it comes to the bodily autonomy, defining goals, making decisions, defining recovery aspects, defining their experiences, choosing how to work on their own differences. Anything can be taken into account. When it comes to presuming competence, it's about presuming competence, it's about recognizing the individual that has a capacity to understand and think and learn to do the things. Instead of walking into the room or defining an individual by the challenges or our own assumptions or the bias when we talk into the room, believing that the individual is competent. Say, for example, setting up the whole scenario, even walking up the stairs. These days, many places they have come up with a ramp. So that kind of inclusiveness has to be taught by each and every department, every single department, every single scenario, every single setup which is being there. people have to look into it, so that we are making them feel their presence. Say, for example, we are accepting people of the bi-genders also. So these kind of accommodations really keep a way for them to come out, and such that they know that they are being respected and we are supporting them. So with this, our presuming competence looks like considering someone with the needs and differences, meeting a person where they are, and identifying the bias and obstacles which are being with that. So validating, next is the validating differences. So validating differences is about moving away from labeling of our differences as deficits, and instead recognizing the diversity in which we function, from the way we feel, that the way we think and the way we communicate them. If we bring back to the neurodiversity, there is no right or a standard mind of the brain. So as the neurotypical people are not the benchmark for functioning, how can that be different? It's important to remember that the validating our differences doesn't mean that denying the challenges or needs. We are not denying the challenges or the needs. We just don't want to imply our challenges or our needs on them, such that they feel that their deficit is a problem. That means we are accepting them, we are trying to support them. So rejecting neuronormativity. Neuronormativity is a set of norms and standards and expectations being put to the society, that it has to be that way. This is the culture, this is the setup, and this is customary. So instead of these norms being that the particular way of functioning, including thinking and feeling and communicating and behaving, the way we function can be modified a little bit, such that we reject the neuronormativity in order to make room for our ways of functioning. We reject the neuronormativity in order to stop labeling individuals having deficits, and just like that, we want to challenge and deficit any kind of normativity that we want to, and we want to accept them, people as they are. Say, for example, though we want to take it light, even the racism which is being prevalent, we can give up on those ideas such that we make people acceptable. So, reframing expectations. Neurodivergent individuals are often judged with held against the neuronormative students and expectations, which is why we need to reframe our expectations in regards to how individuals should develop, communicate, learn, think, play, socialize, and function. We also reframe neuronormatic expectations from success, productivity, executive functioning, independence, even how do we do therapy. So we need to reframe neuronormatic expectations, that disadvantages of anyone who functions differently. So finally, promoting advocacy. This is a key thing that will take the whole process to success. Is a crucial thing, ensuring that neurodivergent individuals can navigate from neuronormative society while meeting the needs and honoring the differences. It's about giving individuals the tools and information to advocate themselves in all aspects of life, including education, employment, healthcare, relationships, etc. So supporting self-advocacy still looks like teaching individuals to identify the needs, teaching individuals about the differences, exploring strategies and tools together, space for individuals to express their concern, honoring an individual decision, and giving individual choices. So prioritizing lived experiences. So neurodiversity affirming practice prioritize the lived experiences and identifies individuals as experts of their own experiences and learning from the lived experiences, and prioritizing lived experiences with your learning. So it means respecting self-diagnosis and allowing individuals to define their own experiences. So nurturing positive self-identity. This nurturing positive and self-identity is important for all the neurodivergent individuals, because too often we are exposed to the narrative that tells us that we are unwell, they're abnormal, they're broken, they're depressed, etc., etc. We nurture positive self-identity by unpacking shame, by connecting to the community, validating differences, identifying strengths, and reframing both our languages and expectations by means of having a good communication process. So adapting systems and environments. We live in a neuronormative society that isn't set up for the neurodivergent people. Why that is? Why we need to focus on identifying and removing barriers, as well as creating adjustments and adoptions and adaptations. It is about moving away from the normal nomenclature, changing to the individual, and to recognize what we change from within and to the environment. So when we stop assuming the differences and distances as a root of any challenges or individual or the difficulties, we can stop making neurodivergent individuals fit into the society and instead find ways to adjust it to fit the neurodivergent individuals as well. So we need to work on differences, not against the differences, and build a life that is meaningful. So honoring all forms of communication, we need to recognize there are multiple ways of communicating and the spoken language and the spoken, not only language, spoken communication. It could be any form of communication, written or any kind of communication where we are able to communicate with people such that um, it's not about superior or the only way to communicate. Every person deserves access to communication. So we honor all forms of communication, providing neutral information and neuronormative communication, which is very important, and identifying the communication needs and preferences, providing access to the preferred communication methods, teaching as well as the parents and the caregivers and also the other people who are involved. Most importantly, neurodiversity, affirming the practice is about moving away from the pathological paradigm and instead adopting a neurodiversity paradigm as our lens for understanding and supporting neurodivergent individuals. So with that, we have come to the end of the session, and I'm sure that definitely with all these things, as um, we are people who are educators, will be able to take it forward to the scenario of the education environment which is being involved, and with what we handle with our capacity, in our own capacity, how we handle the situation and how we will be able to take it forward to the society. And
and fill our minds with gratitude, abundance, and joy. The development of self-affirmation theory has led to neuroscientific research aimed at investigating whether we can see any changes in the brain when we self-affirm in positive ways. In 2016, Emily B. Falk and colleagues suggested that MRI evidence indicates the specific neural pathways increase when people practice self-affirmation tasks. If you want to be super clear, the ventromedial prefrontal cortex involved in positive valuation and self-related information processing becomes more active when we consider our personal values. The results of a study by Falk and colleagues suggest that when we choose to practice positive affirmations, we are better able to view otherwise threatening information as more self-relevant and valuable. Affirmations have several benefits because they relate to how we process information about ourselves. Affirmations are a self-help strategy to promote self-confidence and belief in your abilities. You've probably affirmed yourself without even realizing it, by telling yourself things like, I am successful, I am confident, I am powerful, I am getting better and better every day. All I need is within me right now. I am an unstoppable force of nature. I am living with abundance. I am having a positive and inspiring impact on the people I come into contact with. I am inspiring people through my work. Regularly using these statements can shift the focus from your failures toward your strength. Repeating an affirmation can help boost your motivation and confidence, but you still have to take some action yourself. Try thinking of affirmations as a step toward change, not the change itself. Consider that annoying coworker who always asks questions about your personal life. You don't want to say anything to offend, but you also have no intention of answering their questions. An affirmation like, I can remain calm even when I feel annoyed, might guide you to a habit of deep breathing or grounding exercises when you start to feel your blood boil. These tactics, combined with your affirmations, help you get through the stressful moment until you can politely make an escape. The affirmation didn't make the change. You did. But it did offer a starting point. Affirmations are just one self-help tool. Like other strategies, they can offer some measure of relief, but their benefits usually depend on how you use them. Creating your own can help ensure you choose affirmations that will help you the most. That's a wrap for today.
on that note, thanks for giving this opportunity. Thanks for sharing my thoughts, and also it's a process, and I'm sure that we'll be able to to the needful as it is. And it's very, 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 very important that we need to accept people what they are, and we need to take it forward from there. Thank you. Thank you so much. On that note, I would extend my sincere thanks to IIU, the team of IIU, for giving this wonderful opportunity on sharing our on this next Neuro Talks. So I really like the name, the next Neuro Talk, where we talk about, and it's basically about developing the social justice for people, such that everyone is important, every child is important, every single individual is important, their views are important, their thoughts are important, and we are not here for criticizing anybody for that matter. And if at all any deficit, anything has to be corrected, it can be corrected in due course of time with a positive approach, with a positive faith, and that is built on the bond of love, trust, and respect. That now, thank you. Thank you so much. Until we meet again for yet another talk, we will continue. Thank you. Thank you, IAU. Thanks for the great opportunity. Thank you.